test, I want to mention that our very own Nancy Smith via Zoom will be leading us in the prayer, pledge, and four-way test. So Nancy, please take it away.
Thank you, Phil. Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, during this season of renewal, both spring and maybe a little bit our lives, help us to enjoy and celebrate being with each other, and yet help us to do it in a safe way. I'd ask that you help us as Rotarians to not only keep in mind the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do, but to also keep in mind that we want to be living in service for others. Guide us in ways that we can be the most benefit, not only locally, but throughout the world. Bless this food that has been partaken of today. Please use it to nourish us. Help us to do your service in everything that we do. In Christ's name, amen. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First,
is it the truth?
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And fourth,
we beneficial for all concerned. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nancy. I appreciate you doing that. Those of you on Zoom, y'all are welcome to follow Nancy's lead and lead us in the prayer pledge or four-way test. Those of you here in the room, if you'd like to do it here, standing at the podium, or you're welcome to do it from the table. Gloria has calendars outside for you to volunteer to sign up for. So don't, on your way out, please do not forget to look at the calendar and see if you'd like to do the prayer pledge or four-way test. Now, those of you who have cell phones here that do not also act as the gavel, make sure you've got your cell phone silenced. And those of you on Zoom, make sure you are muted, because trust me, we can hear you. Let's see don't forget, even though we do not have the carafes on the table, do not forget you're walking around folding money to leave on the table. John Calfee will pick that up, and that will go towards the Polio Plus Foundation on our behalf of Rotary's battle against polio. I don't know if you've seen some headlines recently, but as they're trying to get the COVID vaccine out to more rural countries, these governments have come to Rotary and basically asked, how'd y'all do this? The Rotary has been so effective in getting out the polio vaccine that they figure if Rotary can get a polio vaccine out and about to everywhere, that these people can do it as well for COVID. Like I said, didn't know if you'd seen those headlines. Speaking of Family of Rotary, for Jim Berner, there are 2 cards at the front desk. If you have not signed those and written a small message, I strongly encourage you to do that. Speaking for myself, when I got cards from all of y'all where y'all had signed it, it meant the world to me. You know it will mean the same for Jim. So do not, if you're here, do not forget to check those cards out on your way out. All right. Also, on a personal note, I will not be here next week. This is a planned visit, a vacation, if you will. So Gloria has so graciously agreed to take over, so everything will proceed like normal. It is not a holiday, so y'all are still need to come here next Tuesday, and y'all still need to Zoom in next Tuesday. But at least wanted to let you know when I'm not here, it's nothing unplanned or dramatic. Moving on to the sports report. In boys high school baseball, I want you to notice how many games the team's record. Poor Blackman has played 6 games, 6, whereas Riverdale has won twice that many. much less played more than that. Oakland has traveled to Coleman, Alabama. And Siegel has played 11 games total. And girls softball, Blackman again has only played 6 games. Riverdale girls softball has played 12, twice the amount of Blackman. Notice Oakland again, in this case, the girls traveled to Indiana and beat that team. I'd never heard of this school. And Siegel has played 11 games total. In men's college baseball, MTSU, as their season's about 50-50. Notice their weekend series with Rice. They played 4 games and tied 1. I did not know you could do that in baseball. I'm assuming there were some extenuating type circumstances for this. Meanwhile, Tennessee had a 2-for-1 against Bama over the weekend. They play Florida this weekend. Vanderbilt swept LSU, which is no small feat. That was at home, and they play Georgia this weekend. Both Tennessee and Vandy are ranked. I do not know their ranking, but they're both doing very well. Number 1 and number 9, says Frank. Women's college softball, MTSU is 50-50. They split with Charlotte 1-3, and this weekend they play Marshall. Tennessee women's softball can beat Kentucky 2-1 and play Mississippi State, for Mississippi State is almost winless in conference play. All right, on to Rotary business. I will say we've got a new member proposal that the board voted on last Thursday. His name is Stacy Webb. John Hinkle is his sponsor. Stacy, I think, spent 15 years with Asurion. He is now in the insurance business. The board has accepted and approved his application. So now, between now and next Tuesday, it's up to you, the membership. If there are any questions or anything about Stacy Webb, let someone know. Otherwise, he will be a new member in good standing within a couple of weeks at the latest. So we have a new member, Stacy Webb. He's been here to meetings in the past.
The littlest thing.
All right. Do want to say that,
no paint
repeat that the dictionary project, thank you, Melissa, was
The
successful.
littlest thing is the biggest
Those of
thing in the
you
world.
who helped with the dictionary project, make sure Melissa knows that you did it.
So for the
How many
next week.
hours you spent on it, because these hours you
If
spend
not,
on these service projects count towards
fun
makeup.
person to be
Or in other
around.
words, even if you miss a
Very
meeting,
fun person.
it's almost like you were still
The
here. So
littlest
do not
thing.
forget to let Melissa know
You'll see.
about those. Pardon me, I've
Yeah,
got
were they under there?
people on Zoom. Thank y'all very much. Let me move forward. Our next service project is not this Saturday, but the next. I will not be here, unfortunately. It is over there where Outback Steakhouse is, where Old Navy used to be. It's 1954 Old Fort Park. It's benefiting Greenhouse Ministries. It's actually Better Business Bureau's Secure Your ID Day. Those of you on Zoom, James Price left these cards on everybody's table. And you'll notice on the back of the card, you know, Rotary gets to mention about what we are doing. So take these cards with you as a reminder. And again, when we first started talking about this, I was across the street, across Old Fort Park. I got the place wrong. So now that we've talked about that, I just want to put that map up there. This will be in that parking lot. We do not know exactly where in the parking lot, correct, James? We just know it'll be in that parking lot. So, okay. So if you'll show up Saturday morning, the 17th, you'll see it and you'll know where to go. It will be safe, masked up, socially distanced. People will be driving up and dropping things out of their car for us to take and put in a trailer that belongs to Greenhouse Ministries. And James's experience from years past is the trailer fills up awfully quick. All right. Last week, well, let me before I get to that, you've got the email from Lisa about the club billing. This is something the board has talked about quite a bit for several months. And so, and Lisa is here. So Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Don't mean to interrupt you, but April will be for $175. But come July 1, we're going to return to like we always have been, where you'll be paying your Rotary International due, the cost of the meals, and part of this $245 in July, $25 always goes to the Rotary Foundation. So if you are donating $100 a year to the Rotary Foundation, that $100 counts towards your Paul Harris Fellow. Here's a hint. Paul Harris Fellowship Award points will be upcoming trivia questions. Just want to make sure y'all heard that. All right. So if you've got any questions about this, let us know, but we're returning to where we used to be in the coming months. Now, Rotarians or people of action. Last week we saw where our own Gloria Bonner had been the volunteer of the month for the United Way. And yesterday I saw this news where Matt Hibden. Matt came to us via the Murfreesboro Young Professionals. Matt joins us all the time via Zoom, and he was elected as the 2021 4-H Volunteer Excellence Award of the Year. And this, what you see in the middle of the screen, is just a portion of what Matt has done for the 4-H. From judging county and regional public speaking contests, reviewing statewide project portfolios, to helping clean up a room after a judging contest, Matthew approaches each volunteer role with the same enthusiasm. So it's a great pleasure to have people like Gloria and Matt as members of our club. Because like I said, Rotarians are people of action. So congratulations, Matt, on an award well-deserved. Now, moving on. Let's see, Frank, my clicker's not working. All right. Unfortunately, we did not get to this last week. I had people say, Phil, where was my Rotary trivia? I said, I'll get to it when I can. So here we are. 2 weeks ago, we talked about Rotary sponsors 2 youth groups. And we learned it was Rotaract and Interact. Now, here's the question. What is the age group for Rotaract and Interact? And I never can remember. I can look at it in writing, I can stare at it, I can read it out loud, and I never can remember. I have to look this up. So grab the index card on your table, write your name and today's date, and what you think the answer is. One of them is high school, and one is college. You got a 50-50 shot. I write these trivia questions down, and again, I'm telling you, I don't remember. Those of you on Zoom, hit me up via the chat, send your answer just to me, or if you don't, the whole crowd will see your answers, but that's okay if you want to share your answers. So again, hit me up via Zoom chat or grab these index cards and write your name, today's date, and the answers. All right, everybody. I see those of you with an eager anticipation that you want me to go to the next slide and give the answer, and so here I go. Rotaract is for college age and Interact is for high school. Congratulations to those of y'all who got that correct. I'll be tallying these totals along with other previous trivia scores, and we'll be wrapping this up. This was our foundation football, so to speak, this year. Speaking of football, what did you think about last night's ball game? How about that? Gonzaga and Baylor. All right. Yes. Okay. For those of y'all who did not hear Lisa, Lisa is taking Melissa's rule of thumb that how do you remember? I comes before R in the alphabet, and high school comes before college. Interact, Rotaract, high school, college. That I think I can remember. So good deal. All right, I'm going to move along. Well, next week, websites. Why would I mention websites? What 2 websites do you think would be of interest that we need to know? Could it be Rotary International and our very own website? Could it be the answers for the 2 trivia questions? Week after next? So see what you think about 2 weeks from today about websites. All right, one thing, again, what do we joke about? What did Phil forget to do? Phil forgot to acknowledge that we have guests with us today. Stacy, would you mind introducing our guests?
Sure. So, I went to MTSU. I was in a sorority, Zeta Phi Alpha. Carrie Moreland was my little sister in Zeta. She's also on Facebook with me. I reached out on Facebook to ask folks for recommendations for speakers for the month of April. And Carrie said, "Has my dad come to talk to you?" And before I could get back to Carrie, Nancy got to Carrie and told her how interested she would be in hearing Carrie's father, Rob Moreland, who I met when he was about my age and his daughter was in college. I was like, "Can I get your dad's phone number so he can come talk about honors lights?" Because Nancy was ecstatic to hear about it. And then I started researching it a little bit, and it really is awesome. So that's how we have a speaker today.
Welcome. I appreciate you being here as our guest today. I will formally introduce our speaker. Our speaker today was commissioned officer in the U.S. Army Armor Branch after college and served for 2 years on active duty beginning August 1965. He's a board member of the Honor Flight of Middle Tennessee for the past 9 years and has gone on 16 of the 20 flights. He's a senior ride captain for the Patriot Guard Riders, honoring deceased and current veterans, law enforcement, and first responders. He's a volunteer for the Certified Tennessee Naturalist, member of the Friends of South Cumberland State Park, where most recently he was the lead and principal researcher in a year-and-a-half development of the park's 1935 Civilian Conservation Corps campsite into an educational self-tour venue. He retired in the year 2000 from sales management with RJ Reynolds. Having lived in Tennessee for 22 years, recently moved from near Lake Normandy to Murfreesboro, soon to be married for 55 years to Lynn, and proud to have 2 daughters and 1 granddaughter who attends UT Chattanooga. Everyone, please help me welcome Rob Moreland.
Thank you for having me, Stacy. Excuse me. In keeping with the sports motif, how many people had Gonzaga for #1 this year? 1 person? 3 people. Y'all need to go buy lottery tickets. How many people are familiar with what honor flight is? How many have been on an honor flight? Let me give you a little brief history. Honor flight began shortly after 2005's opening of the World War II Memorial. 2 gentlemen who were private pilots flew their dads down to Washington to see the memorial, and then decided that every vet ought to be able to do that. Every World War II vet ought to do that. So they started their flying club taking vets down, and it spread all over the country. At one time, there were 175 hubs, we're called, that were flying vets to Washington. To date, almost 245,000 veterans have been flown to Washington. There are now 125 hubs. We began as the Southern Middle Tennessee honor flight because Music City honor flight was still operating. They stopped operating about 2011. And so about that same time, the 2 or 3 guys that were putting on the one in Southern Middle Tennessee decided they'd had enough and they were going to disband. And there were several of us that said, "Oh no." And we started a new board, got our 501c3, registered with the Tennessee Secretary of State. And we have set it up to continue. As World War II's declined, hubs like Music City and Huntsville quit flying. We added Korean vets. And about 3 years ago, we started adding Vietnam veterans who have a 70% or better disability. We narrowed the field a little bit, and we take care of those who are really impacted with exposure to Agent Orange. So that's our goal still is World War II and Korea, but as those numbers have gone down, we're adding Vietnam. There are only 3 honor flights in the state of Tennessee. Us, Screaming Eagle, which we helped the guy start. He went as a guardian on one of our flights and went back and said, I'm going to start one. And there's one in East Tennessee around Mountain Home, Johnson City area. So that's kind of the history of it. What we do is we recruit veterans to go on the flights. They fly for free the entire day. Veterans have a guardian. The way we do guardians, if they're in a wheelchair, there's one guardian has that veteran. Oftentimes, particularly with the World War II, it's a relative, daughter, son, grandson, etc. The only rule is a spouse cannot fly at the same time as a veteran. If they're walking veteran, we give 3 veterans to 1 guardian. This last flight, as you can imagine, as the population is getting older, the number of wheelchairs has gotten higher. Therefore, the less vets and more guardians that we have to take. First flight I went on in 2010, I can only remember about 3 wheelchairs. The last flight we had 18. Now we always take a few extras by the end of the day. They're all seated. Shoot, I want one by the end of the day. So what do we do? This is the load on the plane. Look at all those smiling faces. That's veterans and guardians on the way to Reagan International Airport in Washington. We began about 2 with a bus in Winchester, Deckard. It then comes to Tullahoma, Manchester, and we added a stop here in Murfreesboro. So veterans and guardians from up here don't have to pay to park at the airport. It's about $25 a day now to park. So they don't have to do that. And then we go to the airport by 5 for a flight at 7. Now about half the group meets us at the airport. They're from Mount Juliet, Hendersonville, Bowling Green, because Music City no longer flies. And we added those other categories. Oh, I forgot to mention that 2 o'clock is AM. And we get back the same night about 9:30. It's a tough day, particularly when you're in your 90s. It's a tough day, but I've never had a veteran say, I regret going. So remember all these smiling faces, they all got up about 1 AM and it's now 7 AM. Here we are landing at Reagan. You see all the people standing up, clapping and cheering. At Reagan, Dulles, and Baltimore, they have hubs, but they don't have to travel anywhere. So what they do is they come to the airport and organize people. They pass out flags. These people are waiting to get on the plane so they don't have a flag. But there are people lined up down the corridors waving flags and clapping for these guys as they come off the flight. First place we go to is the World War II Memorial. Anybody been there? You know it's about 5 acres. First thing we do is we get everybody for a group photo. And then they're allowed to spend their time wherever they want to go. It's about 5 acres with about an acre pool in the middle with a fountain. And then all the way around it, every state and every territory that participated in World War II has a column, and it's divided between the Atlantic and the Pacific wars. So then they break out. The gentleman on the right in the light colored suit, second from the, he's a few weeks above 100. And he's on this flight. You'll notice everybody has on a black shirt. We give all the veterans and guardians get a shirt similar to this one and a hat. We don't care if they wear the hat, but they have to wear the shirt. When you get up there and there's 3 or 4 or 5 honor flights and you get ready to load the bus and do a head count, it's nice to be able to look out in that 5 acres and find the guy with the black shirt on. So we make them wear the hat, the shirt, but not the hat. Some of them have their own hats. He's all on the plane, has their ship on it or whatever. And we also give them, as well as a backpack with some snacks, a challenge coin. How many people who were in the service when challenge coins became a big deal? It wasn't when I was in. Ours is in the shape of a dog tag, and on the back has the 6 branches of service. When we run out of these, I don't know how we're going to fit the space in there, but we'll have to figure out a way to get space in it too. They all have a name tag, so they, by the end of the day, they pretty well know each other's names. Then we go back to the bus, and there's a box lunch sitting in every seat along with the Gatorade. And we go up to the Korean and the Vietnam, which is one's on one side of the Lincoln Memorial, the other's on the other side. This was a vet I was the guardian for. Anybody been to the Korean? It's very impressive. It's different. It's a squad of soldiers coming up a hill. It's about probably 10, 20% above life size. And they have the gear that they had back in those days. They're uplit at night. If you ever go at night, it is really spooky looking, particularly if it's a little hazy. To see these figures, they're almost like ghosts. They were silver when it was made, but now they've turned kind of ghostly. Then then they can go to the Vietnam Wall. These two are obviously looking for names of some of their buddies. For you ladies, I'll tell you a little interesting fact most people don't realize. There are 8 women listed on the wall. They were all nurses. 2 were killed in a rocket attack of a field hospital. 2 died in a helicopter crash, and 4 died when a plane full of orphans crashed upon takeoff. So then it's back on the bus to the only time constraint we have to be at Arlington on time. They allow us to take the bus up to the Tomb of Unknown. If anybody ever been there, it's a hike from the visitors. So we get to take the bus up there, but we have to be on time or they'll send the next bus and we lose out. So we go to the tomb. It is still called the Tomb of the Unknown, but there are 4. On the ground, you see the World War II, the Korean, and the Vietnam. The Vietnam is now empty. DNA has allowed them to find out who that person was. And the guard marches. This was before Memorial Day, and they'd already set up the platforms for the cameras to televise the president placing a wreath. And on the far side under that chain is some of our vets. They get a front row seat to see it. Up those steps would be impossible for most of them. So we're down to the right is everybody else is lined up watching or most are watching the guard for the changing of the guard ceremony. We have made a arrangement. I won't go into how, but we serve supper at a sit down at a dining facility. Fort Meade, if we go in and out of Baltimore, if that schedule works better. Fort Myer, which is next to Arlington, when we do use Reagan. Fort Myer is the home of the 3rd Infantry Division, the old guard. They are the ceremonial guard for all the events in Washington. The buglers with the long trumpets with the pennants hanging off of them, that kind of thing. They also have a group, fife and drum group, that dresses in Revolutionary War uniforms. So they put on a little demonstration and tell the vets about it. This is the post commander, the colonel. She's in charge of the post and she's welcoming everybody, and then she'll introduce them, and then we go in and eat, and some of the troops sit with the vets. A dining facility, for those of you who were in the service back in the day, is like a cafeteria. Some of them even serve pizza. They have a salad bar, a beverage bar, a dessert bar, a grill that'll cook you a hamburger or a grilled cheese. It's not your daddy's mess hall. But that's the volunteer room. So then we go back to Reagan and wait on the plane. We get there early enough. You can imagine getting 50 people, some of whom have never flown. Remember, World War II, they traveled by train. The ship brought them back to New York City and they went home by train. They never flew. Some of them never flew, never got out of the county they lived in. A lot of the Koreans didn't fly except when the military flew them. So if you can imagine getting 50 people through TSA nowadays, 18 of them in wheelchairs, it's like herding cats to get everybody through. So we get there early so we can do that. One of our board members, by the way, there are 8 of us on the board. We're all volunteers. We don't have a building. We don't have an office. We don't have an employee. We spend 98% of the money we raise taking the veterans to DC. But one of our board members contacts the next of kin from their application and gets them to get the family to write letters to the vet. Send them to him. Don't tell the vet. They don't know. And send them to him. He collects them in envelopes with their name on them. He's got some elementary schools and clubs and groups that just do generic Dear Veteran type. And then he has mail call. So that's what they're doing. I just realized this is the same 2 guys that were at the Vietnam. And then we board the plane and head back. We get back usually 9 to 9:30, depends on the schedule. We use Southwest Airlines. They are a partner with Honor Flight and treat us royally on the flights. So we get back about 9:30, and the Patriot Guard riders who were there when we got to the airport at 5 a.m. are there again with a flag line to greet as we come up. I'll point out that the young lady pushing her daddy is a veteran, and she is married to a soon-to-be retired colonel on active duty. So people are clapping and cheering. This goes on all day long. These guys are amazed at the reception they get. Here's somebody with Patriot Guard greeting one of them. So what might be going through your head is, how in the world do y'all do that? Well, it takes about $20,000 a flight. We make 2 a year. We didn't fly in 2020, obviously. We've got a flight scheduled September 29th. So that's 20,000 a flight. The Guardians pay their way. Right now it's $450, covers everything. And then we raise the rest of it. Somewhere between $14,000, $16,000 a flight we raise. Now we've had very, very good donors with some of the businesses in the Tullahoma, Winchester, Coffee County area. Would love to talk to anybody up here about helping us. I'm not here to pick your pocket, but there is something you can do. We all know veterans. They're in your church, they're in your neighborhood. If they're a World War II, we need to take them. Time is our biggest enemy. 640 World War II veterans pass away each day. They're all in their 90s. So World War II and Korean. That is our address in case anybody is so moved to donate. You can also go on the Rounded app, which is an app on your phone which lets you round up credit card purchases, and then they send them to us. Or we are a charity on Amazon Smile. If you buy from Amazon, you can indicate us. But if you know a vet or run into one, have them call this toll-free number. That's it. He will be talking to one of our board members who handles the veterans. We all take a piece of the pie. He will take care of them and get them an application. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. If you are a member of another group that looks for speakers, I'm available. The price is right.
Does anyone have any questions for Rob?
Any questions? I should have asked that. Yeah. Yeah, they are not allowed to fly at the same time the vet. That's been a long-standing rule of the Honor Flight Network, which, by the way, we don't pay anything to the network. They raise their own money, but they negotiate the tour buses and deals with Southwest Airlines. Sometimes we get free tickets. We've gotten 2 or 3 flights out of 20. We use Guardian. They apply. We have people that apply that have said, I'll do it. The board acts as guardians oftentimes. I've pushed wheelchairs before. I always tell the vet when we start out, I got you till lunch and then it's your turn. Because by the end of the day, I'm looking for one. My day starts about midnight. So we have people volunteer. You might want to volunteer. The board, a lot of the wheelchair ones, it's a relative. I think they feel a little more comfortable. We always fly with the doctor and usually 2 nurses. There is 1 nurse on our board that will contact the vet and discuss what medications and health issues they may have put down, not to keep them from flying. We've had vets with oxygen. We can handle that. Mobility issues certainly aren't a problem. We don't allow walkers and canes because the airlines just mess them up. We'd rather have them in a wheelchair. We've even had a veteran with PTSD who had a service dog. and he went on a trip. There's no way, we will do all we can to get a veteran to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. I will say that we appreciate you speaking. We will take money and make a donation to the End Polio Now
Thank
in
you.
your honor. Thank you again for coming and speaking to us.
Thank you.
Appreciate that a whole bunch. All right. While Frank is pulling up the last couple of slides, my wife's grandmother, her husband unfortunately has passed away. He was a World War II veteran. I actually saw Patton in the field, and he and his unit would go to Normandy for the D-Day anniversaries. And one of his buddies, his family lost him. I got thinking about this when you talked about the black shirt. His family lost him. And where did they find him? Standing in formation with the current French and Belgium soldiers, young men in their 20s, and he's standing in formation with them. And they loved it. The soldiers loved it because he was a D-Day veteran. Next week has been confirmed, but we are expecting David Urban, who's the dean at the MTSU College of Business. That ought to be a good program next week. And to wrap up with our television history, not much happened. 1971, Mayberry RFD. Does anybody even remember that show? Did you know Jeopardy is just a month or 6 weeks younger than I am? Jeopardy is 57 years old. And Julie Andrews, 1957, starred in the only television version of Cinderella, or the only time the Rodgers and Hammerstein was written for television. 1957, look at that picture of Julie Andrews back then. I appreciate everybody's time and appreciate y'all being here. I look forward to seeing y'all in 2 weeks. Doesn't mean y'all take the week off. Y'all come here next week, and thank y'all very much. Bye-bye.
Phil, would you express to that speaker how much I appreciate it and